The Red Sea floor is hiding lakes that should not exist. Not puddles, not trenches. Actual lakes, inside the ocean, with shorelines, waves, and water so toxic that animals can die the moment they touch it. And that raises three problems immediately. First, how can a lake survive at the bottom of a sea that should mix everything together? Second, why does life crowd around something that kills on contact? And third, what these lakes preserve down there may be more disturbing than the lakes themselves. The accepted story sounds simple enough. The deep sea floor is supposed to be cold, dark, and comparatively stable. Extreme, yes, but understandable. Water circulates. Sediment settles. The abyss keeps its secrets, but it follows rules. Then a remotely operated vehicle descended more than a mile into the Gulf of Aqaba, at the northern edge of the Red Sea, and the lights found a boundary that looked impossible. Not rock, not mud, a surface, a pale, rippling line stretched across the seabed like moonlit water in the middle of total darkness. An underwater lake, dense, unmixed brine sitting inside the sea like a hidden world with its own edge. That is the moment the story stops being about the ocean, and starts feeling like a violation of it. Because oceans are not supposed to do this. They are supposed to churn, blend, equalize. But these brine pools don't. They sit in depressions on the seafloor, so saturated with salt, so chemically extreme, that they form a separate body of water beneath the water above it. And this is where the official version starts falling apart. Finding one of these pools would already be strange. But the disturbing part wasn't just what they found. It was where they found it. Earlier Red Sea brine pools had been discovered farther offshore, remote, isolated, easier to treat as geological curiosities. But this one was different. The newly documented Neom brine pools were found roughly 1,170 meters down and only about 2 kilometers from the coast. That changes everything, because now this is no longer just an alien pocket on the seabed. It is a trapdoor positioned close enough to land to collect evidence from the world above. Flash floods, earthquakes, landslides, tsunamis. The region's violence does not just vanish. Some of it may be sliding straight into these pools and staying there, layer after layer, preserved in chemical silence. In other words, the Red Sea may not just be hiding impossible lakes. It may be hiding a memory, and the chemistry gets worse. Normal seawater is harsh enough for most life. These pools push past harsh and into lethal. Salinity spikes far above the surrounding water. Oxygen drops off a cliff. Within centimeters of the interface, the environment turns hostile enough to stun, suffocate, or kill creatures that wander too low. Think about that boundary for a second. There is no dramatic wall. No warning sign, just a shimmering edge and black water. Cross it by mistake, and your body enters a fluid that behaves more like poison than sea. The abyss doesn't need teeth if the water itself can kill you. And yet, this is where the second contradiction appears, because the edge of these death pools is not empty. It's crowded. Shrimp hover at the halocline like they know exactly where the safe line is. Eels and fish dart toward stunned prey, then recoil back into oxygenated water before the chemistry overwhelms them. Even predators patrol the margins, turning the lake's toxicity into a weapon. This should be a dead zone. Instead, it behaves like an ambush site. That is the real fracture in the story. The thing that should erase life has become part of a hunting system. Death is not just present here. It is being used, and that forces a deeper question. If animals can exploit this boundary, what about microbes? This is where the mystery moves from eerie to profound. Because inside and around these pools live extremophiles, organisms thriving in conditions that sound less like Earth and more like a failed planet. No oxygen, crushing pressure, salt concentrations several times higher than normal seawater, exotic chemistry, toxic compounds, total darkness, yet they live, not barely, not accidentally. They are adapted to it, which means one of the harshest places on this planet is not a biological mistake. It is a functioning ecosystem, but that wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part is what scientists think these organisms might represent. For years, researchers have treated brine pools as windows into two enormous questions. How did life begin on early Earth? And if life can survive here, what does that do to our definition of where life could exist elsewhere? Because if a world this oxygen-starved, chemically hostile, and lightless can still host thriving microbial systems, then suddenly the idea of life on distant ocean moons stops sounding like fantasy and starts sounding like a technical possibility. Europa. Enceladus. Places we used to imagine as frozen and unreachable begin to look a little less dead when Earth keeps producing ecosystems that shouldn't work. But before we leave the red sea for other worlds, there is another problem right here. These pools preserve. That may be the most unsettling fact of all. In the oxygen-free density of the brine, decomposition slows to a crawl. Material that falls in can remain preserved with unusual clarity. Sediments settle in layers. Disturbances leave records. The pool becomes an archive that ordinary seafloor environments would have blurred, scavenged, or erased. So when scientists say these brine pools may hold evidence of ancient tsunamis, flash floods, and seismic events, they are not speaking metaphorically. They mean the bottom of the Red Sea may contain a cleaner memory of regional catastrophe than the land above it. Imagine that. Civilizations build coastlines, histories vanish, official records disappear, and beneath all of it, in silent black water, a toxic lake keeps the receipts. Now the title starts to make sense. The Red Sea floor revealed something that shouldn't exist physically, but it may also be revealing something that shouldn't exist narratively. A hidden archive beneath one of the most storied bodies of water on Earth. A place associated for thousands of years with crossing, empire, trade, and legend. And under that history sits a system recording disasters no witness could fully keep. And this is where the story gets even stranger. Because the discovery itself almost didn't happen. According to the expedition account, the pools were found near the very end of a long ROV dive. After hours of barren seafloor, the lights finally caught the unmistakable boundary. 5 more minutes in the wrong direction, and one of the most bizarre recent finds in marine science might have remained invisible. That detail matters, because it tells you how little margin there is between known and unknown in the deep ocean. We like to imagine discovery happening at the edge of the solar system, on distant planets, in places we've never touched. But some of the most alien environments on Earth are sitting beneath familiar names on a map. Missed simply because no one looked at the right depression in the dark for long enough. So now the mystery is no longer, what are brine pools? It becomes, how many realities are hidden inside places we think we already understand? A young sea, a known rift system, a heavily studied region, and still, the Red Sea was concealing near-shore death lakes with their own ecology, their own physics, and their own geological memory. That should bother us. Not because it sounds supernatural. It doesn't. The mechanism is natural. Salt, density, tectonics, seafloor depressions, isolation. Science explains the how, but explanation is not the same as comfort, because every layer of understanding here creates a bigger implication. If the ocean can contain separate lakes within itself, if lethal chemistry can create feeding grounds, if some of the best records of disaster are being stored in underwater poison basins, then the boundary between known world and hidden world is far thinner than we pretend. So what was really found on the Red Sea floor? Yes, underwater lakes. Yes, extreme. Microbes that challenge the limits of life. Yes, predators, using a chemical death zone as a hunting trap. Yes, sediment archives that may preserve evidence of ancient catastrophes, but the larger discovery was this. One of the most impossible-looking places on Earth is real, measurable, and sitting beneath a sea we thought we understood, and one major loop still remains. What else is down there that only looks impossible because we haven't reached it yet? That is the aftershock this story leaves behind. Not wonder alone, unease, because the Red Sea did not reveal a fantasy. It revealed a blind spot, a place where the official picture was not exactly false, just incomplete, and sometimes that is more unsettling. When the camera lights hit that shimmering boundary in the dark, they did more than find a lake. They exposed a hidden rule of this planet. Life will go where it should fail. History will survive where no one thinks to look, and the deepest mysteries are often not waiting in another world, but on the floor of this one, in silence, already there.